Welcome to Torture Vault, where history bleeds, and the screams of the past echo through the ages. Here, we uncover the darkest punishments, brutal executions, and horrifying truths the world tried to forget. Viewer discretion is advised, because this is not just history, this is horror, carved in flesh and blood. In the early 1600s, the Iberian Peninsula was gripped by religious fervor and political control that converged in a single, dark institution, the Spanish Inquisition. Established in 1478 and still ruthless well into the 17th century, the Inquisition wasn't merely a spiritual tribunal, it was a political machine, a weapon cloaked in the robes of righteousness. Its mission: to root out heresy, dissent, witchcraft, and anything that defied the absolute authority of the Church and the Crown. By the early 1600s, Spain was a place of secrets, whispers, and eyes that never blinked. Neighbors informed on neighbors. Confessions were prized over truth. It was a world where an accusation could condemn you, where silence was interpreted as guilt, and where the human body became a tool of terror. It was in this grim environment that Catalina de los Rios, a woman from a small Andalusian village, found herself accused. Her crime: not sorcery, not even outright heresy. Her sin, as claimed by her accuser, was refusing to confess to suspicions of blasphemy and associating with Moriscos, Muslim converts who were often still viewed with deep suspicion. But Catalina's real crime may have simply been being outspoken. She was educated, articulate, and unafraid to challenge the whispers of men who assumed spiritual and social superiority. And for this, she would pay with her body, her dignity, and nearly her life. Catalina was dragged from her home in the dead of night. She was taken not to a courthouse, but to a damp, stone-walled cell beneath a Dominican monastery, where Inquisition tribunals often operated in secrecy. There was no lawyer, no defense, no presumption of innocence. Only a set of interrogators cloaked in black, led by the zealous Father Tomás del Oro, who believed that the body must be broken for the soul to be saved. She was questioned for hours. Do you renounce the Holy Church? Have you prayed in secret with infidels? Have you denied the miracle of the Eucharist? Catalina denied everything. She wept. She shouted, but she did not lie. That, it turns out, was the worst sin of all. After 3 days of interrogation without a confession, the Inquisition ordered the next step: the use of moderate torture to encourage truth. Moderate. Such a cruelly deceptive word. For in the 1600s, moderate, could mean the rack, the strappado, the fire, or in Catalina's case, a horror known in Spanish as toca. Toca, also known in English as water torture, was considered one of the most effective and diabolical forms of punishment by the Inquisition. It involved forcing a cloth deep into the victim's mouth, holding it open while a constant stream of water was poured down her throat, drop by agonizing drop. The prisoner didn't simply drink the water, they were drowned by it, slowly and helplessly. Muscles convulsed, lungs spasmed, and the stomach ballooned. The cloth in the mouth made vomiting impossible. There was no escape. Catalina was strapped to an angled wooden bench. Her arms were stretched above her head. A tight cord was wound around her jaw to keep her mouth pried open, and the toca cloth, a long strip of linen, was forced deep down her throat, past her tongue, nearly into her esophagus. Her eyes widened with panic. She knew what was coming. The water began to flow. Not in a rushing torrent, but in a constant, suffocating trickle, timed with each rise and fall of the torturer's hand. Cup after cup, liter after liter, it slid down her throat, distending her stomach, swelling her insides, and igniting a pain she had never imagined possible. Her body began to convulse. Her legs kicked against the restraints. Her abdomen expanded grotesquely as her organs were pressed against the flooded walls of her belly. Her skin grew pale, then purple. Her fingers curled into claws. She couldn't scream. She couldn't breathe. She could only drown. After 15 minutes of water torture, Catalina's body was nearly unrecognizable. Her belly was so distended she looked 9 months pregnant. Her face was bloated, her skin soaked and wrinkled. She had passed out 3 times, only to be revived with slaps or pinches to endure more rounds. Her torturers believed every second she stayed silent was proof she was guilty. Her stomach was on the brink of rupture. The human body can only take so much. Beyond 6 liters of fluid, the stomach may burst. Catalina was close. Her bowels gave out. Her eyes rolled back. And still, they poured. What finally stopped the torture wasn't compassion. It was fear that her body might literally explode on the bench, turning a punishment into a martyrdom. She was untied, unconscious and barely alive, her limbs twitching from the trauma. Her mouth still gaped as water trickled out like a broken vessel. Her torturers returned her to her cell, where she was expected to recover enough to confess the next day. But Catalina didn't break. She refused. She stayed silent. Her body had betrayed her, but her spirit remained intact. The aftereffects of water torture are hideous and long-lasting. Catalina could no longer swallow solid food. Her stomach suffered permanent distension, and she vomited water for days. She couldn't speak above a whisper. Her organs had shifted under the internal pressure. She soiled herself regularly, as her digestive system was wrecked. Her skin peeled. Her gums bled. And yet, she did not give them a confession. Finally, weeks later, the tribunal had to make a decision. They could not execute her. There was no formal confession, no undeniable evidence. So they did the next worst thing. They branded her as a heretic under suspicion, shamed her in public, and exiled her from the region. Catalina was placed on a mule cart, dressed in a sackcloth with a sign reading, "Here rides one who defied the truth." She was dumped miles away from her home, in a village that spat on her for her crimes. Her name was erased from the parish records. She was not allowed to marry, not allowed to own land. But she lived, bruised, disfigured, and disgraced, but alive. And in that survival, there was something extraordinary. Catalina's story is not unique. Thousands were tortured during the Inquisition using water. The toca would eventually evolve into the infamous waterboarding, used centuries later, notably in war zones and CIA black sites. But its roots are in the dark chambers of Spain, in the bloodied corners of confession rooms, and in the cries of women like Catalina. The Inquisition kept no complete records of its cruelties. Many victims disappeared into obscurity. But occasionally, stories like Catalina's survive through letters smuggled to relatives, hidden journals by monks, or whispers recorded in regional archives. Historians today look at toca not merely as torture, but as an early example of psychological warfare, designed to break the mind through the body. The fear of drowning, the humiliation of loss of control, and the intense pain of internal expansion were combined into one horrific method. Some victims did die. Their stomachs did rupture. Their lungs flooded. But those who survived were never the same. Even in the modern era, the question lingers: what separates medieval horror from modern policy? Water torture, long banned by the Geneva Convention, found its way back into public consciousness in the 21st century through intelligence operations. Political leaders justified it as enhanced interrogation. But to the victims, whether in 1600s Spain or 2000s Guantanamo, the terror was the same. The sensation of drowning, the swelling gut, the helplessness, the humiliation. It was Catalina's story all over again. By remembering stories like hers, we are reminded not only of past cruelty but of our own moral limits. What was once called justice may later be seen as horror. And what we excuse today, history may condemn tomorrow. Catalina died around 1641, likely in her late 40s, a shadow of the woman she once was. Her body never fully recovered. But her name survived in one remarkable place: a secret letter from a monk who had watched her torture and called it a crime disguised as piety. He wrote, "Greater than, they gave her water as if it were fire, until her belly swelled like the sea. I feared she would burst before our eyes." Catalina de los Rios is not just a ghost in the footnotes of Spanish history. She is a symbol of what happens when fear rules over truth, when religion becomes a tool of power, and when pain is mistaken for penance. Her story may be horrifying, but it is also a warning. You've just witnessed one of the darkest punishments in history. But many more still lurk in the shadows. So if you dare, subscribe to Torture Vault, where every scream from the past still echoes.